Please welcome back Bi Gan. And Vincent Sheng is going to help us with translation. I think I'm going to start with maybe the most obvious question. I think among other things, I think this film is a kind of amazing demonstration of the possibilities of digital cinema. And maybe one way to talk about that is the extraordinary extended 41-minute shot that is sort of the centerpiece of the film. I'm sure many people are wondering how you pulled it off. So maybe you could start by telling us.
那就先来比较明显的一个需要谈的一个话题，就是您的很多一些处理方式，在这41分钟的这样的一个长镜头里面，是完全把这个数位电影的这个可能性做了一个很好的一个发挥。那能不能谈论一下这个是怎样的一个过程，然后是怎么把这个东西可以实现出来的？
大概拍了3次，然后排练了半个月，然后拍了3次。3次当中，因为我从小，我的生长环境是很难得接触到艺术的，所以我考虑方式一定不是艺术的，它是一个更偏人类学的。然后，所以我在第一次选择了5D Mark III 佳能的，然后第二次，因为5D 的那个曝光是顺滑的。它不像摄影机一样是会跳级，因为我没有灯光，所以它顺滑的话不会出问题。然后第二次选择了那个一个电视台的机器，因为它有推拉，我想尝试不同的感觉。然后第3次我去找了一个很老的一个小的一个 video 上磁带的那种，然后我觉得那个磁带被不断的磨损掉以后。特别像记忆的感觉，我觉得那个介质非常像记忆，所以选择那个。然后，但是后面2次操作都非常不成功，所以选择了第一次。然后第一次瑕疵也特别多，但是我觉得以后也很难得再保存这样纯真的东西，所以当它有瑕疵的时候，我自己也是相对来说接受它，大概是这样一个过程。
So for this particular shot, this particular long take, I actually did 3 times. And we had about half a month of rehearsals to actually get this down. And when I was growing up, there's not a lot of arts to speak of, and also that I have access to. So a lot of decision I made for this film is not on the level of artistic decisions. And to me, it's more on the anthropological level to make a lot of decisions that I had made for the long take. And 3 times, then each time I actually got a different camera, digital camera, to film the 3 different long takes that I put together. And the first one was the Canon camera, the 5D Mark III. And this particular camera has actually the luxury of having the smooth, gradual exposures, unlike other cameras that actually you have 3 different settings, and it's not as smooth in terms of the transition. And I didn't have a lot of lighting to speak of, so this will be a camera that I think it will be the best to capture what I want to do. And the second one, the second time I used a different camera, and the camera was borrowed from a TV station, and this particular camera actually had the digital camera had the zoom, so I thought maybe that zoom in and zoom out could create a different texture for this particular long take. And the third time I actually used a very primitive, smaller, very old digital camera. And actually, it's not the memory card, it's still the DV tapes. And I thought that maybe to use this type of old technology, quote unquote old technology, I get to preserve some type of grainy, fuzzy texture to it, and then somehow reflect the memories of what I was trying to capture, this ideal memories and dream-like sequence. So the second and the third takes. Third, I didn't use them because there are a lot of technical challenges that I didn't quite like the end result. So I decided to go with the first one, even though that there were still a lot of imperfections, technically speaking. But I do think that there's some sense of purity of this sort of perfectly imperfect, and then I think that there's still something to say about the aesthetics and the beauty of imperfection. So that's why I kept the first.
然后我觉得胶片是很适合电影的，但是作为一个现代的，无论是创作者还是生活在边远地区的一个电影人也好，就是不应该去排斥任何的介质。我觉得这种观念应该更现代一点。我可以喜欢胶片，但是我是不是可以用电视台的机器拍一部很好的电影？我觉得完全可以。
So in terms of using film stocks and versus using digital camera or digital format, I do think that, of course, it would be great if I can actually use film stocks to make films. But at the same time, I think it is something in terms of the modern filmmakers to think about that. We should not then wholesale or sort of as a category completely reject the digital format and then only pursue in terms of making films with film stocks. And to me, it's a modern approach, and I really want to be able to have the options to actually use a camera borrowed from a TV station, a digital camera, still make a film that can be appreciated and also see the beauty of it.
Okay, so you shot it 3 times, and you said you spent quite a bit of time rehearsing with your actors. Can you can you tell us a little bit about how the camera was actually operated? Was your camera operator in motion? Were you using drones? What was it?
那你说你拍了3次，然后排演了3次，排演了半个月，那是怎么样去操作这些摄影机的？那因为看起来好像有一些移动式的，或者是一些飞行那种俯视的那些角度，是怎么样去操作这些拍摄的角度？
首先，它本来的文本是非常非常复杂的，到最后我拍摄过程当中是不断的删减它，因为不断的要去做妥协。然后我在拍到这一段的时候，我的演员不知道他们在演什么的，他们只知道一些事件的发生，他有可能以为那些人都是陌生的人或者怎么样，然后在文本上面他们是不知道的。然后我就分成几个，我们导演组我把副导演分在各个地方，然后我自己也在其中的地方担任一个演员的角色，这样可以在那一场照顾到那一场的戏份。问题是这样吗？
然后就是摄影机是怎么操作？
然后其实 OK。
So in terms of the original script, it's actually quite complicated, and I actually have to make a lot of difficult decisions to edit a lot of stuff out because that's the compromise I have to make because of the limitation I have with the equipment and also for the people involved. And a lot of actors participating in this particular long take, they didn't really know what's going on in terms of who's doing what and why they are doing this. They just know that there are certain things that they have to do, and they don't even know whether or not these are strangers or these are people they should know. So again, it's something that just came out very organically. And then we have 3 different main locations, and myself will be in charge of one, and we have 2 other assistant directors that they will be in charge of the 2 other locations. And I myself actually play one of the, I guess, extras in the film that because I can have a full control of that particular location.
然后在拍这部电影所有的机器都借来的嘛，所以我在拍完前面的时候，比如说拍1个月，我得把前面机器还掉，然后拍到这一段的时候，最开始我借了一个我摄影师的那个5D3嘛，然后但是我又去借了一个单臂的斯坦尼康，然后那个单臂的斯坦尼康它是不能转弯的，所以你们看到转弯的地方都会有瑕疵，然后就是3个摄影师在交接。然后其实骑摩托车的那个人就是前面演员有一辆摩托嘛，后面是录音师有一辆，然后摄影师有一辆。其实如果要打摄影师的话，我觉得那个摩托车手也可以被称作摄影师之一。
So because the cameras I got, because of the limitation of budget, I have to borrow these cameras. Sometimes the cameras I use, after a month, I have to return them. So it ended up the first take that I have, or the first time when I the one that I have selected for the final cut is the camera, the Canon camera 5D3. And on top of that, I also used the Steadicam. And the Steadicam, actually you cannot make a turns with the Steadicam. So every time you see that there's a turn, there's some kind of imperfection because of it, because it is from the Steadicam. And we have 3 different cinematographers actually carrying the Steadicams and the cameras, and just sort of almost like a relay to make sure that we can have this one continuous, undisrupted take of 41 minutes.
I'd like to move on to talk a little bit about about poetry. The poems that we hear in the film, in voiceover, are your poems. Did you start out in poetry and literature, and can you talk a little bit about how you ended up in cinema from that, and you know whether you what you brought, I think, from poetry to cinema.
那谈到一些诗的问题，怎么会把诗的东西加到电影里面去？是一开始的话就是开始写诗呢，还是怎么会把这个元素诗的元素加到电影里面来？
我大概从17岁开始写诗，但是我一直在拍电影之前，在拍最早那个作品之前，我都不知道那个东西叫诗，我都以为它是跟 QQ 空间跟 Twitter 是一样的。因为我又不发 QQ 空间，我也不发 Twitter， 所以我就把那些东西保存下来了。然后我还丢了一台电脑，那里面有好多我都记不得了，所以后面只剩下几十首。然后在我拍第一个作品的时候叫 Tiger， 然后我根本就不会拍戏，那个时候我就拍完那部作品以后有很多，大概有10盒磁带的素材，20盒还是10盒我已经忘记了。然后我没办法把它们剪辑在一起。后来有一个特别巧合的机会，我发现啊，如果用诗歌把它们组合在一起的话，这个东西至少能成立。然后我就被迫的去调用之前的 QQ 空间、Twitter 那些东西拿出来，然后剪辑在里面。我发现它是有魅力的，它在不同的。我观看那个作品的时候，发现它在不同的观众的地方会有不同的交汇处，它会带来很多紧迫感，它可以渗透各个方面。我发现啊，原来这个方面是可以做的，它甚至像音乐一样。然后我就开始在第2部作品里面尝试再次使用它，然后我发现我尝试的过多了，但是我很喜欢，然后我就。在这一部作品的时候，我已经把他们角色设计为一个很蹩脚的诗人，就像我一样。
So I started writing quote-unquote poems when I was 17. At the time, I didn't actually have the concept of a poem. I was just writing something, just like Twitter messages or something I would post on the QQ the social media or forum type of environment online. So to me, I didn't really see it as a poem. I just see it as my writing, and I actually have quite a few of them. I lost a camera one time, and a lot of quote-unquote poems were lost, and I only have about a dozen of them left. And I made my first film in the name of Tiger, and that film, I didn't really know how to make films. I didn't know how to create a narrative and a structure for the film. So I remember that I still have those unpublished dozen poems that I have composed before, and I thought that maybe I can use that as a way to create a narrative structure and then somehow combine the poems with the films, the materials and the footage I have to put together this particular film called Tiger. And I thought that it actually worked, and I continued this particular process and practice with my second film. So I actually still use the poems, and I probably use it too much to a point that I think that somehow upstage the film itself. So the third one, I decided to revisit this particular practice, narrative structure. I use poem in it, and I really think that poems can create this. It can be very, very affecting, and just like music or music scores in the films can really create some type of dramatic impact and really give you this sense of being either, again, the word is can be very, very affecting. And I decided to use it and then create a character who is a sort of not so good so-so poet, just like myself in the film as well.
然后诗歌对我来说就像自己和自己的卡拉 OK。
So to me, poems just like singing karaoke to myself, with myself, by myself.
Could you say a bit about the quote that opens the film from the Diamond Sutra, the Buddhist text, which I think it refers to past mind, present mind, and future mind, which seems to sort of resonate with this idea of this reversal of time and the slippage of time that is, I think, very pronounced in the film.
那谈论一下这个为什么会用《金刚经》的这一段来谈论记忆上的东西，从过去、现在、未来，然后怎么样把这些压缩或是这些不可得的这样子的时间感把它抓起来。
最早拍那个 Tiger 的时候，里面有一个角色叫老歪，就 Crazy Face，然后他其实是我主演我 uncle 就是我主演的一个过去死去的朋友。然后到我拍完 Tiger， 我从南京去到凯里的时候，回去的时候，然后抱歉，我们喝了一点酒，所以语言组织不是那么清晰。然后那个我就开始，他就告诉我，如果这个 Crazy Face 这个老歪如果能知道我们在拍电影，那应该是多么棒的一个事情。好，我就想用我自己的方式去超度他。那我天生潜意识里面就会想到，那用一些比如像《金刚经》啊什么的，然后就用了，然后我就翻了一下《金刚经》，大概讲的是释迦牟尼跟须菩提之间宇宙的真理。那我就想把我的主角和他的朋友变成另外一个反面，变成一个虚无的状态，然后就拍了那个。拍完这个短片以后，我真的去看了一下这个所谓的《金刚经》，我发现。非常的难以读懂它，然后里面有那个刚才说的那3句话，然后我想解决这个困惑，我就开始在结构上面去处理，像路边野餐这样，然後發現都是徒勞的。
So the Diamond Sutra, and it's a long story, and I had something to drink beforehand, so not me, but the director. So the structure of my narrative might not be as clear, and so I apologize in advance. And the story started with this my first film, which is Tiger, and one of the characters, or the main character for Tiger, is actually the crazy face that you saw, and it is actually in real life a deceased friend of my uncle, and the uncle is actually also in this film playing the main character. And I guess that when they are talking about this idea of making a new film, and my actual uncle said that wouldn't it be nice if Crazy Face actually want to participate in this or know about this film and could be part of this. And then I realized that maybe there's some kind of narrative structure I can create to link these two characters together. And just so happened that one of the passages I thought from the Diamond Sutra is this idea of the mind from the past, from the present, and then from the future. They are just equally unattainable. So I use that as a way to structure my short films, and I realized that it's actually very hard to understand what does it mean, and I feel really confused about it. I'm trying to figure out what it is, and I continue to use it and trying to explore this type of as a dialogue between the Bodhisattva and with the Buddha, and then how are they going to somehow resolve these issues of memories, about time, about memories. And I think I have tried my best to really present a structure in this film to somehow answer that question, but I still think that at the end it's a futile exercise, just like what's been expressed in the Diamond Sutra.
然后我每次自己看自己电影的时候，我都知道这些3句话什么意思，然后每次一看完我都不知道。
So every time when I saw or when I watched my own film, this Kaili Blues, I thought, okay, I got it. I understand what this means. But then after the film, suddenly I realized that no, I still don't get it. I'm still very, very confused by it.
Okay, just one more question from me. In responding to the first question, you were talking maybe about not having just reference points. You're saying making decisions not necessarily for aesthetic reasons, and maybe a filmmaker generationally and culturally having maybe not the typical reference points of an art filmmaker. But at the same time, I feel like your film is very much in conversation with certain other filmmakers. As we were walking over after a drink or two, we were talking about David Lynch, and I think just the sense of slippage of time and doublings and déjà vu is I think very. Certainly you can make a connection there. The Chinese title of the film is Roadside Picnic, which is the title of a novel that was loosely adapted by Andrei Tarkovsky as Stalker. And the idea of the zone certainly seems to pertain to maybe the village that we see in the film. So, maybe you could just say a little bit about your film. Who are the touchstones for you cinematically?
那你提到说一开始的时候，他自己周边没有艺术，但是他觉得您的影片里面可以看到很多艺术，其他一些像电影人或者是一些艺术家或者是作者的一些影响。那其中就是在喝完几杯酒过来的时候，提到这个大卫林区这段事情，那。在处理时间上，在处理这种时间重叠，在处理这种似曾相识这种感觉上面，好像有类似的地方。那尤其是中文的叫做路边野餐，这其实是那个 Tchaikovsky 里面的就是就是原著的那个名字，对，就是潜行人的名字。那可以提到一下，就是说对其他的一些艺术家对你的影响是怎么样，为什么会有这样子的运用？
首先，第一点，这种相似性，我觉得我肯定是在之前我在凯里那个地方生活了20年，我肯定没办法接触到他们的。我去了大学会看一些，所以我觉得这20年，或者说在大学这年，我觉得相似的地方在他们也会喝酒，然后我也会喝酒，我觉得这一点可能是相似的，所以造成大家拍摄像大卫林奇也是一样那样的，然后我可能也会有类似的，我觉得这方面会有相似，但是那种最原始的跟他们相近的，包括电影语言的，我觉得可能会远一点点。我是后来才开始慢慢的看到他们，喜欢他们一样。然后我喜欢的有塔科夫斯基，有侯孝贤，包括讲的大卫林奇之类的电影。然后像塔科夫斯基那个《潜行者》是我最早在学校看的一部电影，那时候刚入学，我想成为一个很好的电视台的编导。然后但是我很讨厌去上课，我就去学校的那个 DVD room 去看很多片子，就随手拿到一个跟我爷爷年纪差不多大的那个潜行者那 Stalker， 然后发现特别难看，然后开始不断的去看它，因为我想要看完它才能去批评它，然后看完以后我就完全被震撼掉了，然后从那个时候开始我就开始找他的所有的电影看侯孝贤的，后来就到自己开始拍电影了，其实看的不多，绝对不多，绝对没有纽约读电影的学生多，肯定。
So to me, growing up in Kaili, which is where this film was shot, I didn't really have any access to a lot of things that are readily available for a lot of film students in bigger cities. And it's not until I went to the universities that I have the chance to actually see some films. And if you say similarity, I think maybe on the level of I drink, they drink too, and maybe that's something similar. David Lynch might actually enjoy a cup of alcoholic beverage, and I do too. And so I think on that level we have similarities. But in terms of film-wise, I admired them as filmmakers, but I don't think that in terms of the cinematic languages and a lot of ways I approach films are very, very similar, because that's just not my environment, and I have my own way of thinking about films. It's very sort of this innate sense that I have cultivated because of my environment, because of my upbringing. And I do have a lot of people that I admire and look up to. Tarkovsky definitely is one, Hou Xiaoxian, David Lynch, as you mentioned. And I remember that when I went to university, one of the very first film was The Stalker. And at the time, I was learning about how to write scripts and how to direct for TV productions, and has nothing to do with films. And I remember that this is one of the assignments I have to do, and I just randomly select this particular DVD. It's as old as my grandfather, and I saw the film, and I really hated it. I think it's so hard to watch, and then I have to force myself to actually finish it. And the reason why is because I need to turn in assignments. I need to watch it so that I can criticize it. And when I finished film, I was completely at awe. I feel very, very touched and moved by this particular film, and it really changed the way I think about films. And I start to watch other films as well, but not as many, just because of the lack of access. And that's how I started with my own journey as a filmmaker.
All right, let's take a couple of questions from the audience. Yes? Question is about the film being made on a low budget, but also you have a fairly well-known composer, Lim Gyong, who works with Chen Sheng, and maybe you could say a bit about how that came about.
我非常非常喜欢侯孝贤的《南国再见南国》，我觉得那是一部非常现代的电影。
I really love the film by Hou Xiaoxian, Goodbye South Goodbye. I think it's a very, very modern film.
然后后来在我自己开始拍这部电影的时候，我就想要找林强来帮我配乐，于是我去写 email 给他，我说我想让你帮我配乐，他说他没有时间。
So when I first started this particular project, I really want to have Lin Chang, which is the one who did the score for the film, to help me out with this particular project. So I emailed him, and then he said that I didn't have time, or I don't have time to work on this.
然后我又写了一封，我说我没有钱，我还是想请你帮我作曲。然后他就说那你等等我吧。然后他说那你把那个 link 发过来，我发过去之后，他就回我说那你等等我。然后等他做完电影，然后就开始帮我配乐，所以没有任何的难度，好像就多发了2封邮件，所以是林强的人特别特别好。
So I persist, and I decided to send another email to him and really ask him to help me out with this, to compose the music for me. And he said, well, he actually first saw my film with the link, and then he decided to help me out without actually getting paid for it. And that's how the whole thing happened. It's just that it's not something so out of ordinary. It's just that I wrote a couple more emails, and it just happened. I think I have to thank Lin Chang for being such a kind person to help me out.
Yes.
So the question was how the director selected the Chinese the name for the Chinese name for the film, and it's actually making reference to Tchaikovsky that I think we just discussed. So.
然后我其实最早不是叫这个名字，是叫另外一个名字。然后我的监制和制片人都跟我说，那个名字离观众的距离不在一个次元里面。他说你至少要在一个次元里面。所以那我说好，我同意这个，我就用了我下一部电影的名字。所以我现在下一部电影就改成另外一个名字，所以一直要改。
So actually, the original name, the Chinese name for the film, is not Kaili. Well, I'm sorry, it's not Riverside Picnic. That's the direct translation of the Chinese name, and I proposed this particular name.
恍然路葡萄牙配索华的一本。
So the original Chinese name for this particular film is it's called the Book of Disquiet by the Portuguese writers. It's Fernando Pessoa. And so that was the original Chinese name for this particular film. And when I suggested that to the producers and also my friends and people involved in the production, and they said that the name is just too aloof. It's not even in the same dimension with the audience that you want to reach. So they suggested that I should choose something that is closer. It's more attainable, I guess, for the audience to grab the concept. So I decided to then change the name, the Chinese name, to the Chinese name for my next film, which is Roadside Picnic. And that's how the name came about. Now I have to now change the Chinese name for my next project. I guess this cycle will continue.
Yes.
So in terms of the rhythm isn't also using more or less shorter shorter takes for the first half, and then longer take, one long take for the second half. And there's some kind of humor to it for the first part. The second part somehow incorporate a lot of humorous elements to it because of the long take, that you get to absorb a lot of different elements that you want to incorporate or want to include. And she's also from that particular part of Guizhou, which is the location, and just wondering whether or not has something to do with this idea of the local humors and local sense of time, and then somehow create this almost like a shorter first half and then a long takes second half. And 为什么会这样子的？
谢谢老乡来看电影。
Thank you for coming.
然后，第一个是为什么使用长镜头？最早我12年在贵阳的时候，我在拍婚庆，然后拍婚庆经常是长镜头，所以后面就对这个比较感兴趣，就是很长的一个段落，这第一个问题。
So the long take has something to do with that when I first started to make a living, I actually have to film weddings. And for those wedding ceremonies, it's one long take to include everything.
然后第二个问题在结构上面，我希望这部电影，因为在中国的文化里面，我们是有，不管我有没有文化，我是大专生，我是小学生，我还是初中生，我是有那个唐诗和宋词的阅读经验的，我是有那个阅读的语感在里面，所以我希望我的电影就像长短剧一样。所以前面会变成那个样子，然后后面用了一个很长的段落，原因是我个人觉得像小说、绘画，像绘画它的结构可以来自于线条、颜色，然后小说各种各样，但在电影里面，电影是一个持续观看的艺术，所以我觉得在电影里面，如果突然有一个段落会变得很长的话，这样的话那个时间被记录的方式会马上变成一种结构，我觉得这种结构还蛮美妙的，所以我一直到现在都还在尝试它。
So in terms of the structure, using the long and short takes to somehow juxtapose them together, it's because I think even though that I'm not from a place that with a lot of arts, but I do have certain sensibility, literary sensibility, because of the education I received in elementary school, middle school, to college, and I have access to the old classics, the poems from Tang Dynasty, the prose from the Song Dynasty. So very much so, the first half of the films is this sort of parallel structures of the long and the short, and the long and the short, and then that is very, very prominent in the poems from the Tang Dynasty or the prose from the Song Dynasty. So I got inspiration from this particular way of structuring the shots for the first half. In terms of the second half, for the one long take, is because I do think that unlike paintings, you can use lines, you can use colors to create that type of texture and find that particular structure. For me, I need to rely on the length of the takes to create a kind of narrative structure, because film is something that you have sustained attention that to observe continuously. And in order for me to create some type of visual structures, I need to manipulate the length of the takes to create that particular sort of contrast and the narrative structure that I want to create. That's why the second half, I opt to use this one continuous long take just to create that the sense of time, that the short and the long, and how to create a narrative structure.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for tonight. But if you like Kaili Blues, I think you'd be into the next film as well, Lost and Beautiful, which starts at 9. Stick around if you can. I want to thank you all for coming, and I really want to thank Bi Gan for his film and for being here with us. Thank you.